Bill and Jesse are here. They're gonna come up and they're gonna give us a short presentation on what Badlands Advisory Group was, as they were our major sponsor in helping offset some of our advertising costs that went on the radios for both the one that got canceled up in Stanley in this meeting. Bill Schaller is the president of the Badlands Advisory Group, and Jesse Becker is with the Natural Resource Trust Fund. I should have finished my statement with Bill, retired game warden that worked for the state of North Dakota. Well, I don't even know how many years, Bill. 39. 39 years. So that's known Bill for many years. Never wrote me a ticket though either. So good. Jesse's with the Natural Resource Trust group of people out of the Bismarck area, and we've been working very closely with him. He is also what we kind of call our CEO for our organization. It helps organize and keep us on track. So the two of you, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ducard. I'm gonna just go through what the BAG group is all about. And I'm gonna let Jesse take over a certain portion of it because he is so familiar with that. Badlands Advisory Group, or BAG, was formed in 2016. A covenant consulting group out of Bismarck did an assessment with 71 individuals. They interviewed them personally, not over the phone, ranchers, oil industry, government, and conservation. And they came away with a lot of concerns with the oil industry. Most of those had to do with planning. If you remember back, say 10 years ago, how when the Bakken really hit, how things were. We were short on everything from motels to restaurants to water and sewer, schools, everything. Everything was, it hit so fast, so hard, and of course it's hard to plan for a boom, I understand that. But one of those concerns was planning, communication, just like with anything. Reclamation, regulations and best management practices, cultural resources, and wildlife. Those were the main concerns that these 71 individuals that were involved in this assessment. So at the time after that, they got together with a group. They formed a group which turned into BAG with a county commissioner at that time, Daryl Ducard, with an oil field representative, Blaine Hoffman, worked for Whiting Petroleum at the time. Now, since Blaine has left the board, and he's been replaced by Josh Dumoret, who's with ConocoPhillips. Vicki Steiner is the legislator on the group. Gene Veeder, who I'm sure many of you know, is the rancher on the group, and I was from the conservation entity of it. So Rod Backman was our first facilitator at the time. We called them facilitators, and then Karen Rohr, and now Jesse Beckers. But Rod was our first one, and he retired. He reached retirement age. He retired, but he didn't want to give up this group because he had faith in it, and he wanted to still participate with it, and he is today. He has joined the group, and then here about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we asked another young man, Chris McLaughlin. He was in the oil field on the 3 affiliated tribes, and he is a member up there. And so Chris is also in our BAG group now. One thing I want to mention about BAG is that none of us are against oil development. That's not the reason for this group. It is to minimize the impact of that oil development. In fact, our mission statement reads, to promote best use practices for reducing energy impacts in North Dakota. We started out with Bush Foundation funds, and we are still using some of those. And in the last year or so, we've been exploring several different avenues to continue funding for our group. Most of our meetings, we have them in Manning, we have some in Bismarck, but most of them we have a representative from the governor's office there, from the U.S. Forest Service, Forest Service is Shannon Bain, North Dakota Petroleum Council is Ron Nass, North Dakota Industrial Commission, that Reese Hawes now, and Natural Resources Trust. And I will get into that a little bit more later. Department of Mineral Resources, Lynn Helms has been to many of our meetings. And then from time to time, we have other entities or government groups in there, like North Dakota Game and Fish. Jeb Williams will come, North Dakota Trust Lands, NDSU Reclamation. Kevin Sedovic has been to a couple of our meetings, and he presented also at Vision West meetings. And Department of Commerce, and whoever we think that we can at some point in time collaborate with. Some of our successes, we were working on a pilot project with NP Resources and doing fairly well, and then NP got bought out by another company, and that kind of died. But because of that relationship we had with NP Resources, we were able to get the State Land Board and the Forest Service together. So rather than having an oil pad here and an oil pad here right across the section line, and a road coming here and a road coming here, we got them together. They sat down and said, hey, one pad, one road, we can shoot the other way with our lines and so forth. Little things like that. Because there are instances, take one example, north of Killdeer, where there's two roads about a quarter mile apart, sometimes only 100 yards apart, going to the same place, just different companies. It's just unnecessary. You don't need duplication of infrastructure. We try to encourage unitization, pooling of oil resources. As an example, I couldn't find the figures, but I'm trying to work off my onboard computer here, but the Corral Creek area north of Killdeer, by unitizing, they saved, I think it was 64 oil pads, 64 less pads, and 20 some miles of road. So that's one of the things we try to encourage. One of our other successes that I will have Jesse talk about here in a minute is our work with the Natural Resources Trust. We were kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say maybe the impetus, but we got it going where we're through outdoor heritage funds, we were able to really make a difference, put some habitat on the ground. As a group, we certainly don't have all the answers, but we want to get people together so that they can come up with a solution. Is basically what it is. BAG's vision is to see that there will be a robust energy industry that collaborates with land stewards to maintain the beauty of North Dakota. And that's what we're all about. And we have produced some things. I think Jesse said he had a bunch up here too, but this is our action plan, and we work off of that. And a couple other things I want to point out here before I turn it to Jesse is I just wanted to mention a couple of our goals. One of them, to build a coalition of key stakeholders to achieve common ground. Another, to be the conduit for the development of a state energy plan. And since day one, we have been talking about a long-term strategic plan for the state of North Dakota. And hopefully this would not only include oil and gas, but wind, solar, hydro, and at this point in time, it would have to also include carbon capture. So hopefully that is one of our main goals. Hopefully we can get that done someday. Anyway, I will turn it now over to Mr. Beckers, and he will tell you all about what the Natural Resources Trust has done, what they put out on the landscape. So take it away, Jesse.
That's the first time I've ever been called CEO and Mr. in the same. I'm gonna count this day as a win for myself, and I'm glad there's witnesses to it. Yeah, so as Bill mentioned, and you know, the Badlands Advisory Group really was the impetus for some of the Outdoor Heritage Fund work that we've been doing. So I'm the energy program manager for the Natural Resources Trust out of Bismarck, and based on my title, I do a lot of work with energy companies, mainly oil and gas. and also with landowners. So grazing management, habitat planning, that type of thing. One of the things we found through the Badlands Advisory Group study was there really wasn't a lot of programs available for landowners in western North Dakota. You know, you mentioned earlier easements in eastern North Dakota and the northeast where there's wetlands. Well, that's where more options are available for landowners, not just for easements, but for other grass plantings, grazing management, habitat programs. So we took the idea that the Badlands Advisory Group came up with by talking to these landowners and saying, you know, we just don't have programs where we can afford to put in fence, put in water developments, rotate our cattle around. Because Kevin Sedovic was really talking at that time about the benefits of rotational grazing. And it was really hitting a chord. And not only him, but the North Dakota Grazing Lands Coalition was doing the same. Lewis, who you heard from next, he's a member of that group and one of the leaders on the Grazing Lands Coalition as well. So we went to petroleum council, energy companies, wildlife groups, soil conservation districts, NRCS, game and fish, and brought these partners together to put together this proposal for the Outdoor Heritage Fund. And the first one was we called the Bakken Development Working Lands Program. So really focusing on those counties where those cost share programs, you know, if they didn't get into EQIP, there really was no other second choice at that time through any of the other agencies. So Outdoor Heritage Fund provided that. I've done very little work one-on-one with landowners. I've never written a grazing plan. I'm not a rancher. I'm not a farmer. I'm a natural resources guy. So we really had to rely on soil conservation districts, experts out in the field, retired NRCS employees, other ranchers to help meet with other ranchers who wanted to design some of those improvements. So I basically just managed the program, but since Bakken Development and Working Lands Program 1, there's been 3 additional Outdoor Heritage Fund projects totaling over $12 million that have gone back to western North Dakota for grazing systems, grass plantings. We got into cover crops a little bit for people who wanted to diversify a little bit, put some more soil biology back into the lands that were maybe farmed and nutrient loss was pretty heavy. And we, with those 4 programs, we have worked with over 250 landowners in western North Dakota and put in over 225,000 acres of improvements on grassland. So when I say improvements, not necessarily planting native grass or introduced grass, but helping to assist landowners with the cost of improving those systems. So cost share fencing, pipelines, water tanks, things like that. The benefits to the ranchers, my feedback is very positive from that. They're able to, you know, rest and rotate quite a bit more than they were before, rather than season-long grazing. And I can't tell you the poundage difference of cattle in those systems, but the bottom line for us is there's more wildlife habitat on the ground. There's more forage for cattle. Grasslands need cattle. Cattle need grassland. So it's a really, really good relationship. So we were really happy to help with that. On top of working with landowners, we combined work with the U.S. Forest Service and the grazing associations and have been doing quite a bit of juniper removal, invasive juniper removal, drilling new water wells for cattle, kind of doing the same thing on federal lands as we're doing on state lands, and Michigan Forest Service has really been leading that effort. And also with the energy companies, you know, a couple folks from Terracon are here. I contract directly with Terracon to do reclamation work of old abandoned well sites, old abandoned roads, things like that, and put it back into habitat. So, you know, my role is really to bring these different groups together and try to get a positive result for the landowners, for the public, and for the environment. Next, you'll hear about from Becky and Dr. Phillips and Lewis on the carbon study we have going. Sarah Simmers with Meadowlark is a part of that, Meadowlark Environmental. So there's a lot of people in here I work with directly, some indirectly. Some of you I haven't met before, but in some way I've interacted with who you're representing here in some way over the past 8 years. So this year I took over the administrator position. I'm not going to call it CEO, administrator position of the Badlands Advisory Group. And it's a really good fit because I've been involved with the group from day one. And they've kind of been guiding, they have been guiding the work that we're able to do through the Outdoor Heritage Fund. So it's a really cool relationship. I really enjoy working with folks on that board. Enjoy the work I do with Deb and Dale and Consulting and Visions West. So I'm all about the relationship building, making things better for people, giving them more options, I should say. And trying to make the environment kind of a better place. But like Bill said, not against oil development or energy development at all, but I think the general public doesn't realize how much impetus companies put on doing it right. There have been a few bad actors, but the main ones that I've worked with, you know, take reclamation seriously. They take spill control seriously. They take soil health seriously. You know, their workers are living here in the communities as well. So it's really a pleasure to work with such a wide variety of groups. It keeps my phone buzzing a lot and me on the road, but thankfully I have a very understanding wife and family, and it's fun work. So if you have any other questions for me, I'll be around for the afternoon, or for Bill or Daryl who are on the board. I also brought a couple handouts if you want a little more information on the Badlands Advisory Group. We have a meeting coming up here. We're going to be discussing some funding options, keep the group moving forward, and some priorities too that we're hearing from the governor's office, who I meet with regularly, kind of on the carbon neutral by 2030 plan the governor has. So a lot of opportunities. Like the previous speaker, I could keep talking for a long time, but that'd get boring for all of us. So I'll be here, but thank you for coming, and enjoy your afternoon.